Land, and my guest today is Sam Flynn, who is head of a fascinating, interesting business called Hands In, based in the UK. And Sam, you've been developing something really intriguing, impacting the airline industry. Tell
Yes,
us
I
about
have
what you've been doing.
indeed. So, obviously, we're going to get right into it as I prepare some slides for today's interview. But just in a quick nutshell, what we do at Hands In is split payments. But not split payments like how you might think. Sometimes when people hear the word split payments, they think buy now, pay later installments. Now, we do those things, but what we're most known for is the ability to split a payment across multiple cards and for group bookings. And we'll talk into the use cases as to why that's relevant for the travel industry and in particular the airline industry. But our business over the last, I'd probably say 6 to 7 months has really taken off or taken flight in the airline industry. We launched with an airline called Air Europa, which is one of Spain's largest airlines. We've got a fantastic case study to share with your audience today.
Fantastic. Take us through it.
Awesome. Right then, so I'm just going to share my screen. Addison, is this visual for everyone?
I believe so. I can see it. I'm sure everybody else can see it.
Brilliant. All right then. So my name's Samuel Flynn. I'm the co-founder and chief exec here at Hands In. And as mentioned, we do split payments for the global travel industry. So that's airlines, OTAs, accommodation only, car rentals, you name it, we can fit it in our scope. And it's to unlock this key term called incremental revenue, which I'll explain exactly how we unlock this later on. But what we define incremental revenue as is a revenue set that a business, or in this particular case, an airline, would never otherwise get if our solution to this problem wasn't available. But just a quick background around our business. We were founded in 2022. We have secured over $1 million in investment from senior executives at very large payment companies, the likes of Go Cardless, WorldPay, and Elevon. We're also an industry award-winning startup, being crowned in 2023 the Startup of the Year at the MPE, the Merchant Payment Ecosystem, and this year's 2024 Startup of the Year at Travolution and MasterCard's Best Travel Technology Innovation of 2024 as well. We work across the travel and hospitality sector. As mentioned, all the different use cases within travel, but also with payment providers themselves. So big names in travel such as Cellpoint Digital, Uno, and Checkout.com are names that we all work with. Now, what is the problem that we're trying to solve for airlines? Now, airline payment managers will certainly gravitate towards a specific statement at the top here, that 13.4% of transactions in travel decline at checkout. Now, they decline due to many different reasons. It could be due to a customer trying to enter in a fraudulent card. Maybe there's a technical error with the card. But by and large, the biggest reasons as to why travel transactions decline at checkout is due to insufficient funds, meaning the passenger in this case does not have enough money on one payment method to get the payment through effectively. In fact, a recent report from MasterCard found that the average number of decline codes in terms of percentage due to insufficient funds for an airline was around 36%. So more than a third of the reasons why travel payments decline at checkout are due to insufficient funds.
That's an
And just
amazing
to
number.
Indeed, it is. And just to kind of put more insight into this number, this is a case study with an airline that we're working with. They're doing around $1 billion in annual revenue. 50% of that is coming through their direct channel. So this is their website and their mobile app. 70% of this is through cards, so $350 million roughly. And this is across all of the different card types, Visa, MasterCard, and American Express. And 12% of their transactions are failing, and 44% of those declines are due to insufficient funds. So you can see this is a multi-million-dollar a year problem. In this particular case, costing this airline $18.4 million due to the issue of insufficient funds. And with airlines in particular, as we know that this is a low margin industry, I'm sure many of the individuals watching this interview would like to find ways to claw this revenue back into their business to use for their operations. But despite this, no one is really doing anything about it. You don't have the payment gateways out there supporting airlines, any of the GDSs supporting airlines with this particular problem, nor the airlines themselves, obviously because they're not native tech businesses. And this creates the perfect opportunity for companies like Hands In to venture into this market and disrupt. And that's exactly what we've done with Air Europa. As I'm sure everyone in this audience knows who Air Europa is, Spanish-backed airline. And we launched with them in 2024. And this was the business case that we were looking at specifically with them. Declines due to insufficient funds was costing their business about 3% of their direct online channel revenue. They were also getting requests for split payments on group bookings because in a group situation, because you can only pay with one card option or one payment method at an airline's checkout page, you put all of the payment burden on that of the lead booker. So that lead booker has not only got to organize the entire travel experience, but typically pay for the entire amount on his or her card, which if you're a Gen Z and millennial, you might not necessarily have the sufficient funds to do so. But also for Air Europa, the biggest constraint around them solving this problem themselves was the high internal costs and resource constraints that every airline faces in building new travel tech. And this is obviously where solutions like Hands In and different startups can come in and really venture the mold. And that's exactly what we did. So our business is really a platform for the travel industry with 3 different solutions that are currently live out there in the market. I'm going to walk your audience through each of these products and how they work and the value that they've created specifically for Air Europa. And Addison, at any point, if you feel like that you want to ask me a question native towards your audience,
Sure.
feel free to do so. So the
Thank you.
first product is the ability for an airline passenger for the first time to pay for a transaction across multiple cards. So maybe it could be 2 credit cards where an airline customer wants to maximize their reward scheme, or it could be a corporate travel customer that wants to pay, their business class upgrade on their corporate card and another amount on their personal debit card. Whatever the use case can be, we provide the optionality for airline passengers to utilize this solution. And how it works is it's an API integration that an airline can white label from Hands In and implement into their checkout page. What we will do as the provider is give the fields for the passenger to choose the number of cards that they want to split with, entering each designated amount that they'd like to pay across each card, in which we do the authorization per individual card payment. And once we capture the total amount, which in this specific example is 534 euros, we are then able to settle the transaction via the airline's existing payment provider infrastructure. So let's say an airline works with WorldPay, we will settle those transactions through that WorldPay account. Or maybe they work with WorldPay in Europe and Worldline in LATAM. We will give them the ability, depending on what market they want this product live in, to settle those payments with that specific acquirer in that specific market. But that's not all that we do with this product. What we found in the design partnership launch with Air Europa is that 63% of the usage of this multiple card payment option came from a decline on another payment method. So just to give you an example, let's say they tried to pay with their credit card, that payment failed. They would then come back out and they would receive this decline code error that you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, come back out of the checkout, find our option and pay. So we were getting 63% of the traffic of declines to this product. So we come up in around the month of October of 2024, a genius solution that when that decline code comes through and we receive that in line with the airline in our partnership, why don't we just provide them the ability at the decline code due to insufficient funds to split that payment across multiple cards. So on the ability for a transaction by an airline passenger to be retried versus them retrying that payment with just one card option, they can now retry that payment with 2 or 3 card options at decline. And what we found...
Breaking down the barrier there, a huge barrier.
Indeed, because we found with Air Europa in their old flow, when a payment would decline, there was about a 50% drop-off rate for their passengers to just never go through, never try with any of the other payment methods or come back onto the checkout and complete the payment again. So we wanted to capture that audience so the airline can receive their money right there and then. And this product is a fantastic use case to do exactly that. And then on the topic of reducing the burden for lead bookers, we created this fantastic solution that's innovating the airline industry, which is group checkout for passenger bookings between 2 to 9. So this is not your traditionally defined group travel experience with airlines where you'll go into an individual system with an airline and get a quote from the group sales team typically and make a booking for passenger sizes 9 and above. This could be, for example, couples going away together, a group of small friends going away together in any of the destinations that airlines provide. And what this product, again, in terms of customer flow, how it works is you'll find it available at the checkout. Again, this is totally white labeled, so any airline that would want to use this can customize the branding, the logos, the color scheme, everything in the way that they want. We just simply provide the flow. Now, once the user selects this as an option, the first step, we get the lead booker to add their card details. Now, they're not being charged at this point. We're only pre-authorizing the amount that they're paying, which in this case is 253 euros in that user's account. We then get the lead booker to share an invite link, which can be done through WhatsApp, all of the social media services like Facebook Messenger, can be done through email, QR code, and text message to the group members, in which they all join and individually pay their own share. In which at that point we do capture the first name, last name, email, and phone number, and we tokenize this data and we share this with the airline. I'm going to show you why this is super, super powerful in just a minute. And there's an obvious question with this product just before we move on. What happens if one group member fails to pay? Which is very similar to what we do with the multi-card product as well. We would avoid all of the other transactions, because what we don't want to do is give the airline a partially complete transaction that their revenue accounting team or their payments team, whoever is in the back office reconciling that payment, is having to say, right, well, there's 2 payments completed and there's 2 remaining. What it means is that with this product, we're sending 100% completed transactions to the airline and just giving the customers the ability to utilize these services to cater towards their payment needs when purchasing high basket inventory, such as airline tickets.
Sam, so at what stage, if you can go back for a second, at what stage is the group defined? For example, you and I are traveling with two friends, so there's 4 of us, but somebody has to drop out. They can't go. That means the whole trip is cancelled. The whole thing doesn't work.
In the group product, that's typically the last option. What we do offer is the ability for the lead booker to pay on behalf of another group member. So let's say Addison, I invite you, and you message me and say, hey, I'm not going to have the money available this month. I need to wait till I'm getting paid. Do you mind paying on behalf? No problem. I simply find your name, because we get the airline to share the lead passenger data and the secondary passenger data. So it goes straight into the booking window for this product. I find your name and I select pay on behalf, and then I'm able to pay on behalf of your share. We also, because the way that the inventory is split, we split it at the ticket level, and all of the ancillary products we assign over to each passenger. So Addison will have his ticket, his seat, and any other ancillary product, insurance, whatever it might be, assigned to each specific passenger. We will allow the lead booker to remove people from the transaction. So let's say, for example, if it's you and I decide not to pay on behalf of your share, I can just simply remove you from the transaction. And that's obviously great for the group product.
Right. So that's very important. Okay, great. Sorry to disturb your flow there.
No, it's fine. But just a point on the transaction voiding, what we mean by this is that in say for the group product, the lead booker tries to pay on behalf of another passenger's share, that doesn't quite work out, or the lead booker removes that person from the group, and for whatever reason, the payment is not able to go through, we simply void everyone else's transaction, because we're just pre-authorizing the amount. We only capture the payment once the total amount has been paid in and received. And that is the same for the multi-card product as well, because a common question that we get is what happens if one card payment fails? Well, we do give the customer the ability to retry that transaction again. But if we're not able to get the payment through with those customers, because for whatever reason, maybe the customer is truly insufficient on all of their payment methods, then we void all of the transactions. And that means that the customer's not charged and the airline is not charged as well.
Okay.
And these are the numbers. So we launched with Air Europa in June 2024. So it's just been over 6 months to date that we've been able to generate these numbers. So far, total incremental revenue stands at about $4 million in just 6 months. 1.6 of that comes directly from the group checkout product, because what you can see in this next slide here is Air Europa have utilized this group checkout solution to open up a new revenue channel, meaning that if they want to now advertise a newly defined group booking set, it could be a group of 4 friends traveling to Madrid, they've now got the perfect product to help users market to those users and get those potential users from whether it be converting traffic on the website, through social media channels where they're publicizing on their Instagram and TikTok feeds, or with the new data profiles that we collect, which you can see in this third point here, email marketing group bookings directly. For example, that Madrid trip, they can insert a link in that email, say, hey, would you like to split this payment? Great, they can use our service to split that booking. So for all of this, we're able to specifically track how much incremental revenue that they are generating with the group product. Now, on the decline recovery side, in terms of rescuing payments that were failing due to insufficient funds that we've now captured back, we've recovered about $2.5 million. So for any airlines out there that might be, 4 times the size, 10 times the size of Air Europa, just think about what these numbers can represent for you. In terms of the percentage of declines that we're winning back for the airline up to insufficient funds, it's about 20%. So if anyone's watching this interview, go speak with your payments manager, your CTO, your CIO, try and find out the number of how many payments are failing, how many of those are failing due to insufficient funds, and add in our win back rate of 20%, you can then see what the business case is. But just to talk a bit on some of the other KPIs with each product, with a multi-card product, the conversion rate on this solution after we receive the first card payment is 92.5%. And despite you having a single passenger enter in multiple cards, our average time to pay with that product is just over 13 minutes. And for the group checkout product, from once we receive the lead booker's card details, the chance that you're going to get that payment completely through is 87.8%. And interestingly, because again, we're kind of redefining the way that group bookings are typically defined with an airline, the average time to pay is just under 17 minutes. So a common question is, what happens, in terms of timing? Now, all of this is completely configured directly by the airline. Again, we're a white labeled solution. Air Europa have A/B tested an hour checkout window, a 2-hour checkout window, and in the next couple of quarters, we'll be rolling out a 24-hour checkout window. But despite that, the average time to pay for a pack size of 4 is just under 17 minutes. So this can definitely fit within the limited ticketing time window that an airline typically has.
Amazing.
And I think this is really important to share for airlines in terms of, okay, Sam, this is a great product, really like the use case, and I can definitely see how this can be applicable to my business, but how does this integrate? And this is where a lot of travel tech providers, I think, fall short in terms of making it as simple as possible for the airline to get up and running with their solution. So what we've done is we've created on this slide here a back-end payment flow, specifically how we have done it for Air Europa. So I'm just going to walk you through this in any general cases. And Addison, if you've got any questions around anything that you think would be helpful to the audience, please do ask me. Now, we're kind of taking you through the first few steps where a customer goes onto the checkout page for the airline. That for us, we typically would prefer if an airline manages that payment page themselves or works with one of our partners, which I'll showcase to you guys in a minute. They then find the hands-in payment methods, which are just effectively just payment fields on that checkout page. They utilize it, you can see in this step here, the ability to split a payment across multiple cards, whether this be for group bookings or the multi-card solution. And then typically an airline will either manage their payment gateway themselves. We see this with lots of tier ones. They manage the payment gateway themselves, like Air Europa, or they utilize another payment gateway or orchestrator, which is effectively sending those transactions to acquirer 1, acquirer 2, acquirer 3. And what we mean by that is that an airline might have different acquirers enabled in different markets to achieve the best rates. This is what the term and the buzzword payment orchestration for airlines is out there to really achieve. And hands-in works the exact same. So all we're simply doing is it's one PNR, multiple transactions that are settled for your existing acquiring infrastructure. That then gets taken into our reconciliation engine, which I'm going to showcase to your audience in just a minute, where we will split that payment. We'll give you one reference ID for the payment and split the individual transactions into multiple IDs. But again, this is just one PNR, so this does not change typically an airline's existing setup. And a webhook is triggered once we receive the total funds. The acquirer says yes to all of the payments. The fraud analysis has been checked through. We reconcile that for you. We send a webhook to your booking engine to say, hey, payment has been complete. There's 4 passengers or 4 cards. The amount is €400. You can now issue the tickets. So it's pretty much the exact same. The only caveat here is that we're taking one payment and dividing that into multiple. Does that make sense to you, Addison?
Sure, sure. It's actually this works banking, global banking. There's no market that you can't do this transaction in Asia, anywhere.
There is no market we cannot do these transactions in because we are not the bank. We are not the acquirer. If we were the acquirer of the bank, we would, as you are referring to, would have to have individual licenses in all of these markets. Hands-in works with up to 40 plus payment service providers, acquirers, and
Okay,
gateways.
So you just plug in.
You just plug in and you're good to go.
That's amazing. Great.
And what we've seen with Air Europa is certain markets perform better than others. For Air Europa specifically, LATAM has been a great market for us because the banks there have imposed credit limits restrictions for customers to make payments. So there might be a seat that say $3,000 for a customer's credit limit is say $1,500, and they're calling up the airline saying, "Can I pay part amount on card and part amount cash?" Which for an airline in the 21st century is something that they're not wanting to do, and I'm sure many airlines listening also have this exact issue. But the US has been a fantastic market for us as well because of the predominance around credit card as a form of payment, but then also Europe being Air Europa's biggest market. And just to touch in the reconciliation part, because this is one of the biggest questions we get around hands-in, again, single PNR, but taking that PNR into multiple transactions. So in our platform that we give you as part of utilizing our service, you can see this here, where you've got a multi-card payment, you've got the customer here, the total amount, the total approved, everything there is fully seamless. But then what we do is we give you a payment record where you're able to see the 2 transactions specifically via each card, and we do the same for group bookings as well. So if an airline had a question from a customer saying, I made a multi-card payment and I want to refund my American Express card versus my Visa card, we will give you the ability to do that. Airlines can also do this on the fly, and what I mean by that is totally automated through triggering it through the API. So refunds will be completely compatible with an airline's existing infrastructure. And again, there's no real switch, there's no real change here for the revenue accounting teams.
So what I'm looking at here, that screen you were showing me there, that's the airline view of the transaction.
Exactly that. And all of this data can also be fetched through the API. So if the airline doesn't want to interact for whatever reason because they want to have everything in-house, which is very common with airlines, with our merchant dashboard, then what they can do is they can export all this data, upload it into their GDS or their payment gateway that they're using, or just fetch all of the data through the API. And here are some other common questions that we get. Does hands-in fit with NDC? Yes, hands-in can fit with NDC and we can be compatible, only though when the airline manages its own hosted payment page or the payment page is managed by a provider that we work with. So let's take Air Europa as an example, who manages their payment page for both direct channel and non-direct channel. This means that we have compatibility to show these payment options at Air Europa's payment page, because that is the primary real estate that our product needs to correct into. We are compatible with the major GDS, Sabre, and Amadeus. Now, one thing to note is that at this moment in time, we don't have direct partnerships with them, but both of those are undergoing extensive partnership conversations off the back of this case study of Air Europa. And I alluded to this in one of the earlier slides around the PNRs. Now, because we, at the moment, are serving passenger bookings between 1 to 9 and 2 to 9 for the group product, again, this is a single PNR generated with multiple transactions. And we showed you how it can be reconciled within the airline's existing setup. And the other 2 questions have kind of covered around how it can be integrated with the payment page and the direct channel. Again, that's our primary operations support for airlines, is the direct channel, because that's really where you're going to get the flavor of these products. If you're looking at the group checkout product as an incremental revenue incentive, offering it to retail passengers is where this product will make the most sense. And then with a multi-card, that's where you're going to experience the highest amount of declines due to insufficient funds, because customers are not necessarily going to have the payment method types and the credit limits that a travel agent might have through a non-direct channel. And just to give airlines some hopeful comfortability with our services, we are growing rapidly. As the headline here showcases, we work across the ticketing industry with merchants like Sports Events 365. We've signed big partnerships with the likes of Checkout.com and EconPay for payment gateway. And typically how that works is these providers will integrate our solution and offer it to their customer base. So if you are now an airline that utilizes Checkout.com as a payment gateway or EconPay, you can reach out to your account manager and start working with us. Same goes for orchestrators, so big ones in airlines such as SailPoint Digital and Bridge and Gravy, where again, we are connected alternative payment methods available for airlines to start using completely plug and play, where in this particular scenario, there is no integration required. But my final remarks for everyone listening, you're going to, especially at this time, Q1 is a busy time for travel, but it's also a busy time for travel businesses evaluating new products, new travel tech out there in terms of, is this something that we'd like to move forward with and when? But our business case is, if we made you over $1 million in brand new sales that you never otherwise would have got if our service wasn't available, we also return back to you $1 million plus of funds you were already losing that we won back for a multi-card solution. All of this with zero upfront costs. Unlike many of the other providers, we're not going to charge you setup fees and integration fees and stuff like that. We just want to see you get up and running with this product and showcase this to your passengers. And the best part, commercially, how we charge, because this is all incremental revenue, you're only going to pay as an airline once we start doing our job, which is winning those transactions for you. So this is the best part. I've really enjoyed this, Addison, and I hope this has been
really, Sam. What you're saying is the approach is very much partnering with the with your vendor,
exactly.
your airline, let's say.
Exactly. It's
you win together or you lose together.
There you go. And at the moment, all we're doing is winning.
That's fantastic. It's a great story.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So just closing notes. If anyone that has enjoyed this interview would like to learn more and get in touch with me, my email is samuel@handsin.com, or you can book a call with me directly via the website. Maybe you're already watching this on screen, just scan this QR code and you can go directly to my calendar and block out a time that works for you. But I really hope your audience has found this insightful. I always enjoy talking about this product and this business that I've found. I'm really excited to bring this solution to the airline industry in particular, because I think it's something, these services are something that can really provide a lot of disruption to the aviation industry, especially in what we're seeing directly with Air Europa. So now I'm hoping to hear from many of you in terms of some questions.
Sam, in terms of air travel, you're not looking at necessarily airlines that are focused on leisure, right? It's basically cruise lines could use this.
Yes.
And go ahead.
Yeah, cruise lines, car rentals, OTAs, hotels. I think the travel industry needs to position these products as anything with group density. And what I mean by group density, I'm sort of founding these definitions, is where you have a propensity for groups to come and book, whether that be young people, family, and also corporate group bookings, but then also high ATV. Ideally with an airline, where they serve a demographic that not necessarily their whole purpose as an airline is not necessarily directly catered towards the premium customer. Although with our multi-card product, we do see very large transactions go through 10, 15,000 US dollars, where you do have that corporate customer that wants to utilize that booking with this product to maximize their reward schemes. And that also includes the airlines reward schemes as well, alongside their credit card reward schemes too.
It's interesting that we're doing this recording right here in the mid-January, because we have winter break coming up in the US for college students, and they go like packs to the sunshine. So timing on this is really interesting. Sam, thank you so much for spending time with me.
Likewise, Addison, it's always a pleasure catching up with you.